Good evening, good evening, good evening, good evening, good evening. It's your man, God of Dots, man, back with another episode of the Audible. Hope everybody had a good weekend and I hope you are having a good start to the week, man. We are back. Won't be here too long. Tonight's show is just a little different. Not gonna hit you with a lot of stats, a lot of numbers, and that kind of stuff. Tonight's episode will be more NBA focused than normal. Make sure a little bit of housekeeping. Make sure you tune in on Thursday. I will be doing my official giving my Super Bowl breakdown and my Super Bowl picks before the big game on Sunday. Um, and then tune in on Friday. Tune in on a Friday. We'll be doing another Freestyle Friday episode. For those of you who have been following the channel, as always, like, share, subscribe. But for those who have been following the channel, you know how we discussed NIL and money and that kind of stuff. Interesting development in regards to college college sports. And we're talking about the NIL, but we'll talk about that more in detail. Excuse me, on Friday. Make sure you tune in for that. And hey, Miss Murray, Dr. Nikki. Hey, look, y'all. I had to take a break. Hoodie over there cooking. Congratulations to the homie for getting monetized. It's always nice to see somebody that you associate with, come up, the right way. Come up the right way. So congratulations to Hoodie, man. But yeah, like I said, Thursday we'll be doing a Super Bowl breakdown, Super Bowl picks. And then Friday we'll be doing another Freestyle Friday show. As far as the other space is concerned, I'm not sure yet. I ain't been struck with the motivations just yet, but that's neither here nor there. Here to talk about. If you saw the thumbnail, saw the title of the show. Is this the end of the NBA? Dr. Nikki. Let's it's just the regulars over here. Let me just say this. I watched highlights of the Grammys. Didn't watch the Grammys. Taylor Swift winning the album of the year. Okay. I don't listen to her music. I didn't even know she had an album out. I don't follow. I just find it interesting that she has 4 album of the years, and um, you know Beyonce, who has the most Grammys period of anybody, has none. I just find that to be very, very interesting and peculiar. But that's neither here nor there. She also came out and announced she'll be having an album coming out in April, which will, sell in that community. I could care less. I mean, I don't even know how many albums Taylor Swift has ever put out. I'm just worried about her effect on my sports. Other than that, she can do what she do. Well, we'll be talking about some of that and more when me and the homie Solana come back with the 90-second show. We'll be on break this week. Also, then we'll be back next week. We're working on some stuff, man. So, stay tuned for that. But yeah, tonight's episode, is at the end of the NBA Old Guard. And what prompted me to kind of pivot tonight's show and really, not really get into stats and that kind of stuff when we're talking about what's going on in the NBA right now as far as like who's up, who's down, and that kind of stuff. We'll say that for a later show when we really start really diving into the NBA after the Super Bowl completes. I was watching the Brooklyn Nets against the Golden State Warriors, and I was watching how Klay Thompson was struggling, and then to hear the announcers and the analysts talk about, he's this has been a down year. And I started thinking, when we talked about this on a previous episode when we were talking about the NBA, like, who's next up in line? And, is it, we talked about possibilities to Ja Morant's and the Anthony Edwards, the Zions and that kind of stuff. But, I think what I'm witnessing now is I'm, really kind of getting into the NBA. The closer we get to the trade deadline, All-Star break, I start really gearing up, really hyper focusing in on the NBA. I'm starting to see a transition from the old guard, and I consider the old guard to be led by Steph Curry, to be led by LeBron James, and you're starting to see um, that old guard really start to look old. In the case of Steph Curry and LeBron, I still think they're playing at a very high level, still playing at an all-star level. I look at Steph and I look at LeBron as anomalies, especially in the world of basketball. Typically, in the world of basketball, once you hit year 14, year 15, your game just takes a dramatic decline. And I think that's what you're seeing when you watch Klay Thompson out there. You're starting to see a bit of a decline, whether he'll admit it or not. You're starting to see a bit of a decline with Kevin Durant. Like his game is kind of, it was once a 10, now it's like an 8.5. And I think the NBA, if these guys fall off a cliff suddenly, I think the NBA is going to be in trouble. And what I mean by in trouble is like, even though you have guys who could be the face of the NBA, all of them have kind of flaws about themselves that really will stop corporate America and the NBA fan base as a whole from really embracing them as the face of the NBA. And I'm not talking about like the Allen Iverson effect, when Allen Iverson was one of the faces of the NBA. When you look at Ja with his off the court issues, it's going to be a hard sell for corporate America to get behind him. Zion with his injury history, can he stay healthy enough? Can he play a full season, first of all? And does he doesn't, he's not as, I guess, call it media friendly. He's not he doesn't give that corporate sponsor appeal that you get with a Steph Curry and that you get with a LeBron James. And then you look at possibly Anthony Edwards stepping into that role of being the new face of the league. He plays in Minnesota, and I hate to say this, Timberwolves, you're having a very great season. I think you're going to do, all things considered, if you're healthy, I think you're going to do have a pretty good playoff run. But he plays in Minnesota, which is not really a media market. It's not really attracting the casual fan to watch. But I look at the old guard of the NBA, and this is what happens in the NBA. They transition. I watch Mike fade and fade out. I watch Allen Iverson fade out. I watched them all. In my time watching NBA, I watched Shaq fade out. I watched KG fade out. It happens. But I don't know if the NBA is really prepared to, for that to happen in this instance, because, with all the marketing skills that they have and all of the commercials they can put people in and line them up, it's no one. You can't point to one person and say, hey, once LeBron and Steph leave this game, that guy's the face of the league. You can't point to Kawhi. Kawhi is not going to give you the sound bites that you're looking for. He's not he's not a media guy. KG, much the same way. His image has been tarnished by his constantly requesting trades and trying to get into comfortable situations. Like I said, I was watching Klay, and it just made me start to appreciate what I'm seeing out there on the court from particularly LeBron and Steph to be playing at this high level at this age is a testament to them. But it's now I started thinking about it in another way. It should be an indictment on the rest of the NBA for you to allow guys who have played sorry, Dr. Nick. It's all right. It's not gonna be a long show. Not gonna be a long show. I just had, kind of get some thoughts out because I'm really I mean this show might be all over the place. It's going I'm doing a little NFL because I want to talk about the Eric Bieniemy situation, how that kind of is deteriorated and what I look, what I think about that situation. We will talk about that a little bit later, but it made me really start to appreciate the greatness the greatness of LeBron James and Steph Curry to be playing at the level that they're playing um, at this stage of their careers, and have not seen a um, fall off the cliff in terms of their production out there on the court. Like, they're not stat stuffing. They're still playing at such a high level. If I think if their teams was having winning records, was in the hunt for the top seed in a particular conference, you might have these guys in the conversation for MVP. And I think it's a testament to them, the amount of work that they put in. I marvel at LeBron James, and I'll happily excuse me. Sorry, I had to get some water. Um, I'll happily have this conversation. I think I can make an argument that LeBron James is the greatest basketball player that I have ever seen to be playing like this in year 21 of the NBA. He came, fresh out of high school, 82 game seasons, deep playoff runs year after year. When you think about the amount of mileage, the minutes that this man has played, and to be playing at the level that he is still playing at. I mean, to still be playing at this level is a marvel to me. I've never seen a player invest so much in himself. And what I mean by investing himself, like to, take care of his body to this level. We're talking about year in year 21. LeBron looked like he can go for another good 3 strong seasons playing at the level that he's currently playing at. And I just have to marvel, like, I can't recall a player being this great for this long of a period. And much the same with Steph. To be able to, I mean, Steph, with earlier, was it this week or last week? They put up 60 to be able to play at the level that he's been able to play at. I just marvel at it, and I think the NBA is going to be in a very awkward position when these guys decide to hang it up in the next couple of seasons. I do believe LeBron's maybe got 2 seasons he's going to play. Even though I think he could play another 3. Much the same with Steph Curry, and you see what the situation is with the Golden State Warriors. I think the NBA is going to be in a very, very peculiar spot, because LeBron and Steph just, those are, if you could build a spokesman for your league, if you could build a spokesman for your organization in today's world of sports, with social media, the amount of talk shows that is going on, for you to build a build a guy to say, hey, I want this guy to be the face of my organization, to be the face of my league. You couldn't um you couldn't build one better than LeBron. I mean, for this guy to be 21 years in the league, um, no off the court issues, no scandals, none of that, and much the same with Steph Curry. This guys this is going out here playing at an all time level. Um, Model citizens, are not afraid to voice their opinion on, especially with LeBron, especially on social issues. Whether you agree that he's doing too much or not doing enough. I mean, but just for him to be speaking out on social issues, I mean, it's like, the NBA's, if you could build a guy, and I kind of factored this into the LeBron Jordan thing, like, whether you like LeBron, you like the Lakers, you like whatever team he's playing for, you like LeBron as a person. And I don't think, some people can say the same for Mike. I mean, we seen, the behind the scenes, the documentaries and stuff like that. You don't really hear that kind of talk about LeBron James. You don't really hear that kind of talk about stuff. I think the NBA is just in a weird spot. I mean, because you got guys who are talented enough to become the next whatever. We're talking about, it was talk of Trey Young being the next Steph Curry, or Jalen Brunson, rising up there in New York, getting his shine. But I don't see none of these guys that, I will be comfortable, and not to say there's anything wrong with them, but like I want to model my league around them. This is one guy that, if I could say he represents all my players and everything that we stand for. You couldn't ask for better role models than Steph and LeBron. And like I said, I see guys, it's guys that are, as talented as superstar players. But for whatever reason, it's something that kind of holds them back from, really stepping into that position of being the face of the league. And when I say the face of the league, doesn't necessarily mean the best player. But for a large stretch of their careers, LeBron and Steph, at times have been the best player in the league. But just it's just like a weird thing to watch. And then, like I said, this whole conversation was inspired by watching Clay. Like that's what I'm used to seeing from older players. Like this, like the drop off just happened, and you start to question, like, how many years, how many good games they got left up in them. But when I watch Steph, when I watch LeBron, I don't have those thoughts. It just makes me appreciate what I'm seeing out there on the court for guys who are at their age to be playing at this high level. I'm appreciative of what I'm seeing. Maybe that's just the old basketball fan in me. But let's go ahead and switch gears, because I do want to before I get up out of here, I do want to talk about the Eric Bieniemy situation. You guys know, if you've been following the show, how I felt about him when he first got hired over at Washington, coming over from the Kansas City Chiefs, coming off a Super Bowl. I thought they were bringing in Eric Bieniemy to be the kind of like head coach in waiting for the position. I knew Ron Rivera was on shaky grounds, was on thin ice. I thought they were bringing in Eric Bieniemy for a guy to be an offensive coordinator for a two-time Super Bowl champion. Andy Reid speaks highly of him. Patrick Mahomes speaks highly of him. I thought, and you seeing what Kansas City offense looks like without Bieniemy, in the mix. Yes, they're in the Super Bowl, but you can't really say, yeah, Kansas City just going up and down the field on people. You credit this Super Bowl run to how well this defense is played. But I looked at Eric Bieniemy. I was kind of concerned. I was like, but hey, Washington is a good spot for him, because I thought he would be able to kind of transition into the head coach position when they eventually got rid of Ron Rivera. I knew it was happening. But to see how much has changed in the season for Eric Bieniemy, I'm just it leaves me with a lot of questions that I don't have answers to. And it makes me wonder what is really going on with this league and Eric Bieniemy. Like, he gets passed over for the head coaching position. Dan Quinn, former defensive coordinator for the Cowboys, former head coach of the Atlanta Falcons, gets the position as the head coach in Washington. And I'm thinking, okay, you got passed over for head coach. I think Dan Quinn is a defensive guy. Hey, keep a guy that is kind of built a little something with the pieces that it had, because let's not be mistaken, Washington has got issues on both sides of the ball. But I think all things considered, and I think he did a pretty good job of Washington first year starting quarterback. Not really a dynamic run game. Had some weapons on the outside. Offensive line was a serious work in progress. But for him to not only get passed over for the head coaching position, not really be given an opportunity for a head coaching position this past offseason, and then to get fired. From his OC's position. And I get it. Dan Quinn's coming in. He's head coach. He wants to bring in his own staff. But for you to go from this time last year, you was offensive coordinator, for the eventual Super Bowl champion Kansas City Chiefs, to here we are, Super Bowl week, and you are out of a job in the span of a year is crazy to me. And you're starting to hear reports coming out of Washington that players was chafing, or what that's that white word for it, but you know what it is in our community. They players was bitching about how hard Eric Bieniemy was riding them, and I don't know if this is an indictment on the new age player, but what are you bitching and moaning about? I mean, your team sucked. So if he's being hard on you and he's being critical of you and he's telling you, hey, we need to work on the details. We need to get better. We need to get better. We need to get better. And for you to for us to get better, you have to get better, player. Because I still think Airbnb is one of the best offensive minds right now in the game of football. But for to hear that kind of stuff come out, and it's always anonymous, sources leaking this, but for players to be like, I didn't like him because he was riding us in practice. Like, maybe if you'd have listened, you could have found yourself in a Super Bowl. You could have found yourself in the playoffs because his method of coaching works. His method of coaching worked because just last year he was offensive coordinator for a team that won the Super Bowl. So why not, put your bitching aside, stop bitching and moaning and really, work on your game. I don't think you get rid of Eric Bieniemy. I don't think Washington's offense is going to take off, even though they have the number 2 pick, possibly drafting Drake May if they stay at the number 2 position. I expect them to be calling Chicago, trying to move up in the draft and possibly draft Caleb Williams. But I don't expect Washington's offense to just take off. And it's a part of me as a Cowboys fan. It is a part of me as a Cowboys fan that hopes when we play Washington that we beat the dog. The dog. I'm just gonna start cutting. Hey, I hope we beat the dog shit out of them. I hope we drag them. And it's not necessarily because they're a rival. Because I don't look at Washington as a rival. Yeah, you're in our division, but I only see one team in our division right now being a rival. And it ain't you. I hope we drag them. To get back at Dan Quinn. But it's a part of me that wants every team to just drag the hell out of them, because I just think Eric Bieniemy got a raw deal. Eric Bieniemy got a raw deal. I mean, for you to be the offensive coordinator for a 2-time Super Bowl champion, and teams are not lining up to beat down your door, but everybody's beating themselves over the head to bring in a Cliff Kingsbury, who sucked as an NFL head coach. I don't get it. I don't get it. I don't want to say it's the good old boy system, but that's what it looks like. Cliff Kingsbury was dumped by the Arizona Cardinals. Didn't finish out his contract. Has no track record of other than college. And college. Let's keep it a buck. Outside of the SEC and maybe the Big Ten, ain't nobody playing no goddamn defense. Ain't nobody playing no defense. So a lot of those numbers he was putting up in college with those offenses, that don't translate to the NFL. Now, if you was putting up those kind of numbers and with an SEC team, maybe we can talk. Because we know SEC teams run pro style offenses or pro style defenses. If you were putting up that kind of production in the SEC, maybe we can have a conversation. You got the head coaching job primarily because your connection with Kyler Murray in Arizona. You didn't even make it to the end of your contract, and for teams to be tripping over themselves to bring you in as the offensive coordinator when you ain't won a goddamn thing in the NFL, is beyond me. Is beyond me. Eric Bieniemy is sitting out here, a 2-time Super Bowl, got 2 rings, one of the most prolific offenses when he was part of the Kansas City Chiefs organization. And you give credit to Andy Reid, but give a lot of that credit to Eric Bieniemy, because you see what Kansas City offense has looked like this year. Keep it a buck. Let's keep it a stack. They all kind of took a slight step back. as far as like what we're used to with the Kansas City Chiefs. We're used to Kansas City. When Bieniemy was there, hey, you can mess around, get 40 and 50, put on you real quick, in a hurry. But for this guy to be out of a job is beyond me, and I don't want to say it, but I just get this strong feeling it's some blackball. He's had to piss off the wrong owner doing the interview, and word has got around with this guy is blackball. For him to not be able to get a serious head coaching job, I could live with the fact if he got a job, coaching the team, and you bombed out, and then they was like, nah, you just a coordinator material. But Josh McDaniels, they'll still trip over themselves to give Josh McDaniels a damn head coaching job, and Bieniemy can't get one. Bieniemy can't get one. I mean, Cliff Kingsbury. You had the Raiders tripping over themselves to bring him in. You had Washington tripping over themselves to bring him in, and he ain't won a goddamn thing in the NFL. He ain't proved it. You know what, man? I'm the offensive. I'm the offensive mind that can put you over the top, and that's what you're looking for when you bring in staff. If you're Dan Quinn, hey, this is not college. We're not going to wait for you to build a program. This is the NFL. We expect you to win now. Let Dan Quinn have 2 losing seasons. His ass will be out of there. I don't give a damn how much you talk about building the culture and all of that kind of stuff. But let me just get off my soapbox. I'm befuddled why Eric Bieniemy can't get a job. Can't get a job. For this time last year, you were preparing for a Super Bowl, an eventual Super Bowl win. To now you're out of a job a year later. Is beyond me. Can someone explain that to me? This guy was the offensive coordinator for the Super Bowl champion, who is back in the Super Bowl, and he can't get a job, and got fired from the job he did have for one season. For one season, with limited talent, or with let's call it, Washington's got one good, one guy I would take on my team, off of the team. That's scary, that's scary Terry McLaurin. Rest of them guys on the offensive side of the ball, yeah, I mean, interchangeable. I'm curious, I hope Dan Quinn, for some of the questionable defensive play calls you was calling in the playoff. I hope every team in the league, and especially my Cowboys, go out there and dog walk the hell out your Redskins. Dog walk the hell out them Redskins. And it's a small part of me. Do it for Eric. Well, let me get my behind up out of here. I appreciate everybody for taking the time out to listen to me. Like I said, Thursday we'll be doing Super Bowl preview, and I'll give my picks. I know Gator Girl is probably thinking I don't pick whatever team she's going for because that's typically how it works with the football stuff. And then Freestyle Friday. We're gonna be talking about some of the big news coming out of the NCAA as far as players, NIL, and that kind of stuff. I find some of it very interesting, and I think it deserves I think it'll be a nice conversation piece. I think that's it. Like, starting next week, once the Super Bowl is wrapped up, we'll do a recap next week. Then we're head first with the NBA stuff. So, Dr. Nikki, you might want to go to ESPN.com and start getting familiar with the NBA this season. Thank y'all for taking time to listen to me. As always, the phrase that pays over here. Sometimes you win, sometimes you lose, but every time you learn. And I'm out.